welcome to episode 30 of the Gentle Knitter podcast. My name is Nicole and I'm coming to you from Ottawa, Ontario. Today is Sunday, December 15th, 10 days before Christmas. I am not ready. Not that I have a ton to prepare for. We are having a very quiet Christmas, just Mark and I at home, which I'm really looking forward to. I cannot wait to just be off of work and just have some time to relax. It's been a very busy fall at work, really intense. I'm working on two big projects. One which opens at the end of next week, so thank goodness for that. And the other one, I just had a major deadline at the end of this week, so now I'll be able to kind of have a little bit of a break at Christmas, and I'm hoping that I will get a lot of time to knit and ski and play in the snow, which finally arrived. We have had a very wet and yucky December so far, but now we have snow, and last night it snowed and I'm so excited. It's really put me in the Christmas spirit. I have to admit I wasn't really there before, but now that everything is blanketed in snow and I will be able to pull out my skis and go play outside. I put on some Christmas music this morning and did some decorating, and now I feel like I'm in the Christmas spirit. Last time we spoke was before Rhinebeck. That was a wonderful time, as usual. Had a great time hanging out with my dear friend Elizabeth Doherty and Lori, who works with Elizabeth, and Claire from the Woolly Thistle also stayed with us, and we had a beautiful house we stayed in right in Red Hook, which is right next to Rhinebeck, so it's super convenient, and it was great. It was cool, so we all got to wear our woolies. I got to meet so many of you. Thank you to everybody who came up to say hi and give me a hug. It's really wonderful. It's for me, the highlight of Rhinebeck is meeting all of you and getting to sort of put a face to comments and just interactions that I've had with people through the years of doing this podcast. So I just had a wonderful time. Met some people I've been kind of friends online with. Tyne, hello Tyne. I wore my hair in braids. Tyne is a wonderful designer, and I will show you something that I knit of hers in a little bit. She's the Cleverest Stitch on Instagram. I was able to meet Ocean of Ocean by the Sea, beautiful Instagrammer and yarn dyer, and bought some of her yarn, so I was but it was so lovely to meet her, and she's even more lovely in person. And then Denise Barron, another amazing creative person and beautiful soul. We didn't have a lot of time to talk, but it was just nice to finally sort of be able to look at each other in person and really connect on a real level. So so many of you were there, and it was a really great time. I bought some yarn, so I will show you some of what I bought. I didn't buy a ton, but I did some damage. Let's jump into it, because like I said, I have a lot to show. Some finished projects, some in progress things, one sort of fail, anyway, let's get into it. So the first thing I want to talk about is my beautiful soiree sweater, which I finished in time for Rhinebeck. I was talking about it in the last episode, and I love it. It's really cozy. Especially for like a cool day like today. It's so light and so warm. It's really, really lovely. Maybe I'll stand up so you can see. I made a longer version, so it is a cropped sweater. You'll just ignore the slight wrinkles there. It probably would need to be reblocked, but it is got a beautiful, beautiful cable detail along the side, which was a lot of fun to knit. And it was a pleasure to make. The pattern is by Emily Foden, and it was first released in an issue of Pom Pom magazine a couple of years ago. And then it was also included in her Knits About Winter book, which came out last year, one of my favorite knitting pattern books. And I knit it in Emily's beautiful yarn. When I was visiting this summer, I got a chance to, I was visiting Emily's studio. She has an open house every summer. And so I talked about it in a previous episode, but I bought the yarn to make the soiree. And so it is a combination of her alpaca Polworth fingering and her mohair silk blend. And I don't recall the names of the colors. I mentioned them in the last episode, but it's just a really pretty mix of soft purple or lavender and gray and brown and beige. It's just a really, really pretty mix. There's a little bit of blue in there, and such a gorgeous fabric. It was a real pleasure to work on because just, you know, when you're working and every stitch is just so beautiful, and the fabric is just growing, and I don't know. It's like eating a super delicious dessert, you know, so soft, and yeah, it was an easy pattern, really, really fun. It's easy to throw on. The one thing is that you do end up with mohair in your nose, and I'm not sensitive to mohair. I know some people are. So it doesn't bother me. It just, you know, it'll get stuck in your lip balm or that kind of thing. But yeah, I really love it. I highly recommend the pattern and the yarn. What else did I want to say about it? It does pill quite a bit, but you know, that's the nature of any yarn that's super, super fuzzy, is gonna, those fibers that are kind of floating in the air tend to rub together and then create little pills. But because the overall garment is very fluffy, they don't stand out as much, and you know, just kind of pick them off as you go. But soiree sweater done, and very, very happy. I wanted to mention that I am recording with a different device today. I'm actually using, I got a new iPhone, and so I'm using that as a test. I had a web camera, and I really like the quality of the image and the sound, but there's something, technically I'm having a hard time. It records in a different aspect ratio, in a 4:3 aspect ratio. And then I can't bring it into iMovie. And anyway, technically there's something I need to figure out to make it work properly. And which has meant that I've tried to record, and then the footage I recorded didn't work. And anyway, so I'm trying with my iPhone because it's super simple. Let me know if you think the sound and image quality is good, then I might just go with that. I'm trying to make recording a bit easier for myself because I do want to record more often. But anyway, we'll see. Let me know. My next finished object is, I believe, another project that I talked about in the last episode. It is this beautiful shawl, designed by Sophia Camaborn of the Camabornia podcast, and it is called the Skymning shawl. I'm not sure if that's how it's pronounced, but I didn't wet block this. I did give it a quick steam, but I do want to wet block it because I really want the lace to kind of be nice and blocked so that you can really see the detail of it. But it's just a delightfully easy shawl to knit. It is nice, it's big and lush, and the yarn is lovely. It is Rauma Finulgarn in the kind of cream, the natural color gray, and then this gorgeous soft brown. I would actually really love to knit a full sweater in this color. I bought the yarn from Knitography Farms. She offers kits. I actually checked, they still have some kits available. Sophia had knit a version that was like neutral tones, but then with a beautiful gold color for the lace. And I love that version. I love this one. I'm happy with it, but in the last episode of the Camabornia podcast, I think she showed either images or she was wearing the one with the yellow, the gold trim, and I was like, oh, I really love that one. But this will get tons of wear, and it's just a beautiful, generous shawl to put on when it's cold and snowy. So I highly recommend it. Such an easy pattern. If you've never done lace before, it's a super easy lace. It would be a great beginner project for that. But yeah, my Skamning shawl. I knit another shawl, and I love the results. However, I am going to take out the edging and modify it a little bit. It is my Trelawny shawl by Tyne Swedish, who I mentioned earlier. She's doing a whole series of Harry Potter themed shawls, and they're all gorgeous. I think there's 3 out right now, and I want to knit them all. But I started with the Trelawny shawl. I talked about it last time. I love Professor Trelawny. She's the movie version of the character is hilarious. And so I adore it. It's really beautiful. However, I didn't, I finished it with the I-cord, and I feel like I would rather have a garter. If the last section was a knit section, so it alternates between garter and then knit sections, and then bound off with an I-cord. The yarn I have is a slightly different gauge, and I think it ended up being a little bit, it looks big here, but a little bit on the small side in terms of like wanting to tie it. I kind of end up with these little bits here. And so I've got a bunch of this pretty kind of light dove gray. So I'm gonna do I'm gonna use up the rest of it and do a big garter section to end it. I kind of wanted to end on this really pretty sort of soft mauve, but I do want it to be bigger so I can wear it. So it's not blocked, and the ends aren't woven in. And like I said, I'm gonna rip out that I-cord and add an extra section of the garter. And I've done that on many shawls. I'll add a wide garter edge, and I really like that. I just like it as a finishing. And it for my yarn, the I-cord is rolling now. Like I said, I haven't blocked it, so had I blocked it, that would probably not happen. But yeah, the pattern is so beautiful. The yarn I've used is so gorgeous. I just really want to make sure that I am 100% happy with this. The yarn I used is Viola Yarns, and it is in her, I believe it's her Morrisburg DK base. and sorry for not knowing the names of the colors, but like I said, there's a really beautiful kind of gray, but it's a warm gray with flecks of blue and yeah, like a bit of light like lilac, and then this stunning mauve color is just my favorite. And I love how it's just tonal, you know, it's not like ultra variegated, but you do get that richness of variation in the color, and it's really, really gorgeous yarn. So so I will show it to you next time when I've actually finished it. But the Trelawny shawl is absolutely delightful, and I recommend the pattern. The next thing I knit was a test knit for Elizabeth Doherty, my super talented friend. It is the Tiny Boats hat, and I adore this pattern. What a beautiful, beautiful result. You get this really cool slip stitch bottom that creates these little, she said they kind of reminded her of little Viking boats. And it's easy, and it is just textural, and I really, really, really love how it turned out. I knit it in the top, or the gray is Fiber Company Road to China Light, which I bought probably like 15 years ago. I bought it at Lettuce Knit in Toronto when it was in its original location. It's unfortunately no longer, it doesn't exist anymore, but it was a really lovely, charming little yarn store in Toronto in Kensington Market. And so I bought it there, like I said, such a long time ago. The beige is it's blacker yarns, and oh dear, I will put the name of the yarn here because I don't remember. It's one of their like kind of breed specific blends in this really pretty kind of oatmeal color. And I wish I didn't have my braids, I would put it on for you, but it is a lovely pattern. If you have sort of some special yarn, it doesn't take up a lot of yarn, this would be great. If you have like a luxury skein of, you know, cashmere or Surrey alpaca or something like that, it's really quite a lovely project to use that kind of stuff. Have a look at Elizabeth's pattern page, because she has also done some versions with multicolors, like different colors, and in kind of, I think she used some Shetland yarn, maybe some Jamesons, and those versions are gorgeous. So I'm thinking maybe I'll have to try making another one. But Tiny Boats hat is definitely a win. What else do I have? So I'll start with works in progress. I'm knitting some very plain socks. I've got one here. It's in this beautiful mossy green. The yarn is Blacker Yarn's mohair sock yarn. What's it actually called? I'll put it down here. But it's as part of my kind of testing non-superwash yarns to make socks. This yarn is not soft at all, but it's got a beautiful halo, and my feet are not sensitive, so I am really curious to see how they will wear. My efforts so far at kind of working with non-superwash sock yarns has been mixed, I would say. They just tend to, I don't know if it's my feet or just the types of shoes I wear, but even though I'm hand washing them, they do tend to felt in my shoes. And I don't know, I I'm curious to see how this will perform, but I'm kind of a little bit maybe relaxing my whole non-superwash yarn thing for socks. And I bought some yarn that is superwash for socks at Rhinebeck, and it's so gorgeous that I don't, I mean, there's nothing wrong with superwash yarn. It's more a question of feel, how it feels when I'm working with it. And oftentimes with superwash merino, I'm not into the feeling of it. But I have to admit that the socks that I have that have been the most durable are my commercial yarn socks. So the socks I've done in Regia or Lang, all of those socks they wear like iron. So I don't know, I'm kind of feeling like you have to find what works, and those yarns work really well for me. I have some socks that I've had for probably like 20 years and I'm still wearing them, whereas the couple of pairs that I've done in non-treated yarns, some of them, they're not wholey, but they are felted, and they're really, really tough to get on. So anyway, we'll see how these do, but I am enjoying working with this yarn very much. I'm almost done the toe on this one, and we'll have just enough yarn to finish those, but enjoying working with the yarn. It's delightfully woolly and snuggly. What else? I have torn out something I had started last year, and I didn't show it I showed it to you sort of in progress. I was knitting a Widow's Kiss sweater out of some Sawkill Farm yarns that I bought last year at Rhinebeck in this gorgeous rusty color. It's their variegated DK yarn, and it's called Rhode Island Red, and I absolutely love this color. I really did love how it was looking in that pattern. It's a beautiful pullover by Thea Coleman, and it's all over cables. It's sort of a boat neck, and I just felt like I was looking at my wardrobe, and I've knit several pullovers lately, and I really felt like I didn't think that I needed more pullovers. What I really need are basic cardigans that I can throw on top of a dress. That's what I wear, like I would say 90% of the time, is linen dresses, and I just love having small, simple cardigans to go over that. So all that to say, I ripped out, I had maybe 2/3 of the body done. It was really beautiful. I would love to knit that pattern again, but it's beautifully written pattern. The cables are like super smooshy and lovely. But anyway, all that to say, I ripped that out. I actually didn't rip out the sleeves. I had knit the pattern calls for you knit the sleeves first, and I'm secretly hoping that I can attach these sleeves to the sweater I'm making. Excuse me. Because the sleeves in that pattern are just plain, and it's kind of like it's a top down, and you start with the sort of the top of the yoke, and then eventually you attach the sleeves. So I don't know, maybe I can make that work, but maybe not. I'm just waiting to get to that point to see if I can make it work. So what am I knitting? I'm knitting the Peasy sweater by Heidi Kiermaier. There's really not a lot to see right now. I have just started the lace panels. So it's a really simple cardigan with just like a little lace paneling on the fronts. And I love mixing a super rustic yarn with lace. I don't know why, but I love kind of the mix of the fuzziness of this. It's a single ply yarn, very, very similar to a lopi, but in a DK weight. So yeah, I don't know. I just, like I said, I feel like, and this is something that that is true for my next project that I'm going to show you that's a total fail. I just really want simple, everyday sweaters. Though the few that I have that are in that category are the things that I wear the most. My Albini cardigan, which I adore. My Trillium cardigan, which is a Michelle Wong pattern that I knit like a long, long time ago. Like I've worn through the elbows. I've actually done some duplicate stitch on the elbows now, but it's just a cardigan I wear all the time. So I just want more of that. So that's what this is going to be with this gorgeous yarn. The fail is, it's not a fail so much as a realization that this is not me. So I knit, oh darn, what is the name of this pattern? I will have to put it up on the screen. It's this gorgeous thing. And you might be looking at this going, yeah, Nicole, that is not you. It is, so the reason why I knit this is because at Indie Untangled this year, I was at the Spin Cycle booth, and one of the ladies, one of the owners of Spin Cycle was wearing this exact sweater. She had knit it, it was a charcoal gray, but with this Spin Cycle yarn, which is a yarn that mimics Hand-spun. It's a really very beautiful yarn. And I just fell in love with how it looked on her. She's a super cool lady, and I was like, I want to be a cool lady like her and have a really cool sweater. And so I bought I already had this beautiful navy biche et bûche, which a really, really sweet viewer had sent me last year. And I knew it would look really beautiful with the colors in this this yarn, this Spin Cycle yarn. So I bought the Spin Cycle. I only had to get 2 skeins, and I knit up the yoke, and I really loved working on it. It was so pleasant to work on. I love color work and just this really gorgeous pattern, I have to say. And I tried it on. I haven't done the sleeves, obviously. And I was like, this is so not me. It's too ornate. It's too colorful. And I think the mix of the yarn, the biche et bûche is much, much lighter than the Spin Cycle yarn. And so the top of it is, because there's so much color work, and you know, you have all these floats, the top is kind of stiff. And when I tried it on, it did this weird, like, kind of weird puckering. It wouldn't sit on my shoulders, and I think is probably due to the fact that the biche et bûche, and they're not, weight-wise, they are not compatible. So you create this sort of body that is ultra light, and this kind of more stiff top, and I don't know, it was the combination of it being way too busy, too colorful, and not fitting properly. So it's gonna be going to the frog pond. Because the yarns are gorgeous, and I don't, you know, I don't want beautiful yarn to sit in a garment that I'm not going to wear. So even though these super ornate yokes are all the rage, I just think for me it's too busy. I kind of like a very plain or very traditional. I like the what are they called? I think they're Swedish or Norwegian kofta cardigans that have like the kind of flea in the body, flea pattern, which is just, you just have regularly spaced dots of color work, and then more ornate at the top, but it's always two colors. Usually it's like charcoal gray and white, or red and white, navy and white, that kind of thing. So I like that kind of intricate detail. I like Icelandic yokes with a lot of colors, but for me, I realized that this is just a little too much. This kind of pattern in a hat or in mittens I would love, but it's just a whole lot of yoke for me. So yeah, it's a fail, but it was delightful to knit, and so I'm totally at peace with that, and I will definitely reuse the yarn for something else. So I guess I can talk a little bit about some of my Rhinebeck purchases. I didn't go overboard this year. I have a lot of yarn, as you know, and just trying to be really thoughtful about my purchases, although I just finished telling you all about yarn that I bought for a design that totally is not appropriate for me. But the other things I bought, I feel very confident about. So I'll start with some Green Mountain Spinnery yarn that I bought. It's yarn that I've bought before. It's their Sock Art Lana yarn, which is it's 100% fine wool, US grown wool, and it's a 2-ply sock weight yarn. But I bought enough to make a cardigan. So I'm gonna make a small gauge, simple I with it. It's in this gorgeous, so that's more accurate. When I bring it up close, it blows out, but I do want you to see the little flecks of kind of yellow and navy, but it's saturated. It's more like the overall tone is more darker like this. And I love this kind of deep forest green. I think it looks really beautiful with blue, and I have a lot of navy clothes, and I think it would just be really pretty. I had knit a shawl out of this yarn, which you may remember. It was yarn that I bought at Rhinebeck in kind of a beautiful kind of slate blue, and the shawl I knit was, I can't remember what the name of the pattern is, but it's just basically a triangle with these eyelet lines, and I really love the feel of this yarn. It's kind of got slightly dry feeling, I think is the way I would describe it. It's almost cottony, but with the kind of bounce of wool, and it wears beautifully. So I think it'll make a really pretty cardigan. The cardigan I'm thinking of making is the Anchors cardigan, the adult version. It's a just super simple yoke cardigan that has just these rows of basically of ribbing, but there's kind of offset, and it's a super simple cardigan, but the type of thing I would just wear to death. So so that was my first purchase. The color is Tornado. No, Tronido. Tronido. I don't know what the word means, but if anybody does, let me know. But yeah, I'm super happy with this. It's gonna be a really lovely garment, I believe. The next thing I bought was some stunning yarn from Prado de Lana, and they are where are they based? Is it in Maine? They have the most beautiful booth with all of these super, super natural yarns. This one is called Madrugar, and the yarn is from their sheep. They always write down the name of the sheep that provided the fleece. So the sheep, I believe, I could be wrong on this, but it's Brigitte and Bruce. I think those are sheep names. And it's 100% Romney, and it is to die for. It's got so much luster and softness at the same time. So it glows, and it's got a halo, and it's super bouncy and squishy. I am obsessed with this yarn. So they had a sample knit out of this yarn of a shawl that I have had my eye on for a long time. I have it over here. Let me just grab it. It's a shawl pattern from an older issue. I think it's issue number 2 of Wool Week, which is a magazine that's put out by Shetland Wool Week. They put one out every year. They're really beautiful publications with gorgeous patterns. And so so Prado de Lana had a sample of the Sanic shawl by Donna Smith, and it is this shawl here. I think I've shown this to you before. It's a beautiful triangular shawl, lots of garter, the way I love, with this amazing shell. To me, it looks like a shell lace pattern, a traditional Shetland lace pattern. And yeah, I am very excited to knit this. This yarn is a little bit heavier than the yarn that is called for, which is totally fine with me because the bigger the better as far as I'm concerned when it comes to shawls. But yeah, this is probably, it's one of my favorite purchases that I've made at Rhinebeck, and I'm excited to cast on with this gorgeousness for the Sanic shawl. So I mentioned that I met Ocean of Ocean by the Sea on Instagram, and she's a beautiful natural yarn dyer. And so she was there with Pom Pom magazine, and she had a small, beautiful selection of her yarn for sale. And I got 3 skeins of these beautiful yarns. They are on a tweedy base. So her base, it's the Fleck base, and it's a BFL Donegal blend. It doesn't say superwash, but I think it is a superwash base. I've seen other dyers use this base, and actually I bought a skein from another dyer in this base, or a base that looks very, very similar. But this color is called Beachcomber, and it's the perfectly named skein. It's a gorgeous sea glass, kind of greeny blue with some beige and some, sandy flecks, and the little tweed Donegal tweed nubs are in there too, so it has that kind of sandy feel. Then this other color is called Stracciatella, and it is just a neutral that has little, I'm just going to take the label off. It has these very, very subtle pops, or not pops, but like swaths of peach which may not be showing on screen, but it is really, really pretty. And then speaking of peach, the last one I bought is called, the color is called Peach Fizz, and it is, if I bring it up close, it really blows out, but it is definitely a beautiful, soft peach color. And yeah, so I think that these will go together in a shawl of some kind. I don't know what, but something big, maybe something brioche, I'm not sure, but I just I love these soft colors, love them. So yeah, so anyway, Ocean, these are amazing. And like I said, I bought another skein in a very, very similar base. So it actually, I'm curious. So this says, it doesn't give the percentages. It says BFL Donegal. This says 85% superwash BFL, 15% NEPS, and that would be the probably what Ocean is calling Donegal. So maybe it isn't the same base, but it has a very, very similar look. The NEPs are kind of the same. They're kind of dark chocolatey brown, and then some are paler, kind of beige. This yarn is by Once Upon a Corgi. It was the first time I bought some of her yarn. I just fell in love with this color. It's called Warmed Caramel. And actually, you know, I think this all looks really beautiful together. So I don't know, maybe it'll be something together. I'm not quite sure. But yeah, it might also be socks, because like I was saying, I am sort of interested in maybe going back to more durable or sock yarn that doesn't felt as easily. So yeah, so these are super duper beautiful. Very happy with those. And then the last thing I bought was a sweater's quantity of a yarn by a company called Tidal Yarns. And I've admired their booth every year. I just really love their booth. They just have a gorgeous natural setup. All their yarns are naturally dyed. They're all rustic yarns. This is, let's see, it doesn't say specifically. It is a fingering weight yarn. It's a 2-ply. It doesn't give a color, but it's dyed, I believe, with indigo. It's a really pretty blue that has a slight kind of sagey undertone. I believe the yarn they use, it's a blend of kind of natural color and more of a brown base, like a pale brown base. So you get, I don't know if you can see, you get sort of a tonal, you can see a little bit of brown there. And anyway, I just love their yarn. It is pricey, so I've always kind of resisted buying stuff, but the person, one of the persons in the booth was wearing a sweater that I absolutely fell in love with, and it's this sweater here. It's called the High-Low, the Tidal High-Low, and it is designed by the yarn dyer, and you can only buy it as a kit, so you can't just buy the pattern by itself. But yeah, I couldn't resist. I got the yarn for the sweater. This is something I will wear. Another super basic, simple. It's got some seed stitch detailing, and it's got a little pocket. And I bought a contrasting skein, so I will be doing this. The little inside of the pocket will be this color, and then the sweater will be this color. And this yarn actually has a very similar feel to the Green Mountain Spinnery. It has that kind of slightly dry quality that that is very, very comfortable to wear. So yeah, so this is another really beautiful purchase. I love this color. I think it looks really good with my eyes. So that, in a nutshell, are all my Rhinebeck treasures. And yeah, it's a lot. So I'm calming myself down for 2020. It's going to be all about kind of bringing the stash down. But anyway, I'm excited to work with all of these beautiful things. Lastly, I'll show you some hand spun that I've done recently. I talked about it I think in my last podcast. It's fiber that I bought from Into the World, and just used my my Moosey, my spindle to spin it up. And so I ended up with this really, really pretty kind of mossy green with kind of icy grays, and then some darker, more kind of richer bronzy colors. And I don't know what I'm gonna make with it. I think, you know, like most of the yarns I spin, it's kind of a mix between a fingering, a sport, and a DK. Not a very good spinner, but I do enjoy just the process of it. And yeah, so yeah, I don't know what I'm gonna make with it, but I'm just really happy with the process, and the results are really pretty too. So maybe a hat, maybe some mittens, I don't know, maybe socks, we'll see. But it was a lot of fun to spin, and I don't know what else to say. I get a lot of questions. I think I've said this before. When I show spinning, I get questions, and I am not the person to ask for spinning advice. It's just something I do in a very intuitive manner, in a very, not planned. I kind of let the fiber do what it's going to do. I let my fingers do what they're going to do. And they kind of pretty much always do the same thing. I end up with kind of a worsted spun, so meaning it's not, I don't let the twist come into the fiber. I will manage the fiber as it goes in, and so it ends up being, sort of a little bit less fluffy than I would want. And eventually I will learn how to really do a good job at prepping my fiber to do woolen spun, which is a little more lofty and fluffy and rustic looking, which is what I like. But in the meantime, I really enjoyed spinning that. There's two other things I wanted to show you. Let me grab them. So another semi-fail of mine was I was working on a pomme de pin cardigan by Amy Christophers, a designer I really, really love. And another kind of example of something that was beautiful, that I really enjoyed working on, but that I felt was too fussy, too like over detailed, or just felt like it wasn't something I was going to wear regularly. I've realized that I don't mind having a shawl that has a lot of laciness, but for my sweaters, I want something really plain. So ripped it out. The yarn I was using is Flywheel, in this really pretty steely gray blue with some red and some yellow and some brighter blue flecks. It's a really gorgeous yarn. As you can see, I just rolled the whole thing in a big ball. When I knit with non-superwash yarn, I always spit splice my ends, so if I rip something out, it all comes back in one long big gigantic ball. But what I want to make with this is a sweater that I've knit before. It's from a super, super old issue of Rowan magazine. It's issue number 24, and I believe they're in the 60s now. I checked the date on this. It came out in 1998, so it's 20 years old. Oh my God. I feel so old. Some of you may not have been born when this came out, but it's a sweater I knit. It was one of the first sweaters I knit for myself, and I love that sweater. The sweater itself, the yarn I used was not a 100% wool yarn. It was a mix of wool and acrylic, and it didn't wear very well. So I ended up, I think I donated it to Goodwill. But I love the sweater and I really miss wearing it. It is this little cardigan here, and it's got a mitered collar, which I really love, and then these little pockets. The bottom section here is all seed stitch. There's seed stitch here. And yeah, I just love this cardigan. I loved wearing it. It was really easy to wear. So I'm going to be knitting this with this yarn, and I think it is gonna be a sweater that is gonna get so much more wear than the super lacy, beautiful pomme de pin cardigan. So yeah, so those are some of my plans for this year. Lots of very plain cardigans, but always with a little detail, and usually, you know, what I like to do is let the yarn shine. So I think those will do that. The last thing I wanted to say before I wrap up, because this is going to be a super long episode, is I bought this beautiful, beautiful book. And it's called Maja's Swedish Mittens, or maybe this is Maya. I'm not sure how it's pronounced. But it is a sweater by Maja or Maya Carlson. And I just fell for it because, first of all, it's got a ton of beautiful patterns. I had seen Sophia of the California podcast knit some of these patterns, and I think at the time the book was only available in Swedish, but now it has come out in English, and I'm just a sucker for anything Scandinavian. And then you add in stunning photography, and I have no willpower against that. Yeah, it's a really, really beautiful book. One of the charming things is that at the beginning there's kind of an index of all the patterns, and these are all hand drawn, and I just think that's so sweet. But yeah, I mean, hello. This is just too beautiful. And then the patterns are just gorgeous. I love a traditional mitten. Sorry, I'm just gonna keep showing you this Scandinavian goodness. So this is kind of a little bit like what I was talking about earlier, but I like a plainer version than this, but those really traditional sweater patterns. So, hello. This book is so beautiful. Some of the patterns I want to knit, I'll show you quickly. Should have probably marked them first. This sweet pattern of just snowflakes, and then it's got a Latvian braid. Really like those. I'd like to do it in like a dark charcoal background and then a creamy white for the snowflakes. It's the, what's it called? The flakes pattern. Then, I mean, frankly, I could probably knit all of them. There's a pattern called Spruce Sprig, and it's this really sweet pattern here that calls for, it's knit with let-lo peas, so lots of leftovers of that in my stash for this really, really sweet pattern. Anything woodsy, you know, is right up my alley. And then there's another pattern that I think is the one that Sophia knit that made me want to buy the book. It is this, the Promise pattern. And it is these two little lovebirds. Oh, so pretty with a little branchy pattern. And then the flea. This is what is often called a flea motif, just little flecks of color. And then a heart. Yeah, I love those. So those are definitely in my future. So all in all, a really, really beautiful collection of mittens, and using all different weights of yarns, so really good for stash busting. And I haven't tried knitting any of the patterns yet, so I can't speak to the quality of the pattern writing, but I don't know, I feel pretty confident that I will enjoy. There's also this little pattern with the man and woman, or is it two women? Well, doesn't matter. Two people hanging out. There's a little insect one. There's a little compass one. Some are really, really simple, like this kind of just stripey. Some are a lot more traditional, like this beautiful flower motif with the initials. So yeah, a really, really beautiful book. I recommend it. Well, I think I'm gonna have to say goodbye for today. I'm actually driving out to the countryside to meet up with Lee from Quiet Lee on Instagram. We're gonna have a nice chat and a knit and maybe a walk in the woods this afternoon. So I'm really, really looking forward to that. I hope that your holidays are filled with all those good things, and that you have a beautiful time with your loved ones and lots of woolly goodness to start off the year. And oh, I did forget one thing. I wanted to announce the winner of the giveaway that I talked about last episode. Let me grab the prize. Oh dear, where did I put it? It's in here somewhere. I'll be right back. So I had two beautiful skeins of Fiber Nymph dye works to give away. One is a fingering in a color called lighter green. It's a custom milled blend of Romney and Falkland. So it's 400 yards of fingering weight, really, really beautiful blend. And the other skein is Ridgetop DK Custom Mill Blend. Again, the Romney Falkland in the cinnamon color, and it's DK weight. Really, really pretty yarn. So the giveaway, I asked people to comment in the Ravelry group about telling me who their favorite Harry Potter character was and why, because I talked about the Trelawny shawl and how much I love Professor Trelawny. And so I got a ton of responses. It was really, really fun to read all of your, who was your favorite and why. One thing that I wasn't clear about was that I wanted people to comment in the Ravelry group, but a lot of people commented in the YouTube video. So what I ended up doing was, took a while, but I wrote down everybody who had commented from the YouTube group and from the Ravelry group, and I put it in a hat, and I drew a winner. And that winner is Geneviève. There was only one Geneviève, so you know who you are. But congratulations. I will send you a private message to let you know that you won the giveaway. and we'll send that off to you very, very soon. So thank you everybody for participating. Like I said, it was really fun to read everybody's favorites and why. There was a lot of Luna. That was a big favorite, and she is one of my favorites too. I have to say, she's my favorite in the movies. In the books, she's a little, I don't know, a little less appealing. I think the way the actress plays Luna is just really what endears me to that character. There was a lot of Ginny, a lot of Hermione, of course. Not that many Harrys, which was interesting. A lot of Neville. And, what was great was reading through it kind of gave me different perspectives on the characters. Neville being, one of the characters that is just so ultimately so brave and so able to kind of surmount a lot of difficulties and just be so loyal to his friends. And I don't know, it was really nice. And then there were also, I had sort of mentioned that if you weren't into Harry Potter, you could mention a favorite character from either another series or just from a book. And there was a lot of Anne of Green Gables, which really warmed my maritime heart, my Canadian heart. So it's one of my favorites too. But yeah, thanks again to everybody for participating. Thank you to Fiber Nymph Works for donating the beautiful, beautiful yarn. And with that, I will leave you. Merry Christmas to all of those who celebrate it. Happy solstice, happy Hanukkah, happy Kwanzaa, what else? Happy holidays, everybody. I hope that this time of year brings a lot of warmth to your heart. I know it's not an easy time for everybody, but if that's the case for you, sending you lots of love. And I think the most important part is just to be really gentle with yourself and offer yourself that warmth and that love. So anyway, I'm glad to have had a chance to talk to you, and hopefully we'll speak to you soon. Bye.